Hello, everyone. My name is George Demakopoulos. I'm the co-director of the Orthodox Christian Studies Center at Fordham University in New York City. I'm delighted that our institution is able to participate in this important conference about the diaconate, the female diaconate. I would like to thank all of the organizers, especially Petros, Dr. Vassiliadis, who did so much to put this together, and for the invitation for our institute to participate. I would like to offer just a few observations from my own work regarding the female diaconate. Uh, I, Let me begin by saying there is obviously no historical question whatsoever as to whether or not the Orthodox Church had women in the role of deacons in the early church. This is biblically attested. It's very clear in the Justinianic legislation that there was a female diaconate. We know from the correspondence of figures like St. John Chrysostom, St. Gregory the Theologian, etc., who had women deacons closely associated with their ministry. This is all just very obvious for anyone who is willing to look at the historical sources. Obviously, that doesn't mean that we know everything we would like to know about the history of the female diaconate. I think the two most pressing questions, which may or may not even be answerable, are first, what was the actual role of female deacons after the age of mass conversions? We know some people have wanted to suggest that the female diaconate died off as soon as there was no longer a need for catechism and mass conversion after the legalization of Christianity. We know this is not the case. We know that the order continued. What we don't know with any real assurance is what role these women played. There's been a lot of conjecture about this, and of course, the debates that reflect current issues projected back onto the past have a lot to do with what their liturgical role was. That's one body of questions. What role did these women play? The second issue, to my mind, that's really pressing is why did it ultimately die? If it continued for centuries in Constantinople and elsewhere after the age of mass conversion, why then did it die? There have been some somewhat foolish suggestions that the church basically came to its right mind and realized that this was a mistake from the beginning. Those kinds of ideas are just silly and not very scholarly. There have been a number of other proposed theories for why it died out, the rise of purity concerns, what have you. I actually have my own theory that I would love for someone more skilled in the sources than I am to explore. My own theory has to do with the distinction that we have between the cathedral rite of the major churches in Constantinople versus the monastic rite. Those who know liturgical studies in Byzantium know, of course, that there were these two different liturgical rites that were operative. A monastic rite was obviously envisioned for a community of male monks and so forth. And the parish rite was, or the cathedral rite as we refer to it, the rite that was being used in Hagia Sophia and elsewhere, had some subtle but noteworthy distinctions in the liturgical rites that were celebrated. One thing that's really interesting about this is that we know that these two rites exist. And we also know that with the Fourth Crusade and the Latin conquest of Constantinople, the Latin occupation of Constantinople in the 13th century, when the Nicaeans recapture Constantinople in the 1260s and restore the churches in and around Constantinople to a Greek rite, we know that the cathedral rite does not come back. The only thing that comes into existence in Constantinople in the retrieval in the 13th century is a monastic rite. We also know that there is some evidence for a female diaconate up until about the time of the Fourth Crusade. So my question is that could it be the case that the final demise of the female diaconate in the Orthodox Church in the Byzantine Rite is actually tied to the demise of the cathedral rite, which occurred with the Fourth Crusade? I don't have an answer for that, but I have to admit that I'm intrigued. That said, I wish all of you very well. I look forward to seeing and hearing the results of this very important conference, and I look forward to our ability to get together and discuss these issues at some point in the future. Thank you.